Hello and welcome back to the Nasty Metal Production channel here at YouTube, and welcome back to another album of the week. This is episode number 183. Today I will be looking at the debut album from one of the 2010s most interesting band to emerge from the retro 70s rock movement, Ovvl. Or sometimes spelled Ovvl, 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 blah. Formed in 2007 in Oakland, California, since their formation, they have gone on to release 2 demos, 4 singles, 1 compilation, and 3 albums, with their third one being their newest in 8 years. And their new album, released back on October 7th of this year, is titled Geomancy. And it's released through, I think, the founder of Ovvl, Clint Beagle, his label. Again, it could be his band. I'm not sure, but I know he's been a longtime member of Ovvl to begin with, since its formation. So I'm taking he's one of the founders of the band. So again, Clint, if you stumble upon this album of the week episode on the first Ovvl album here, let me know if you're one of the founders. And also, nice to probably see you again, because of I'll get to my story with my dealings with the band Ovvl here. I've never met any of them in person, but I've dealt with them via the Bandcamp page. And again, I'll get to that story here in a bit. So, Ovvl, their first album here was actually originally released on November 4th in 2012 via the band's own small label, Magick Hermit Records, on vinyl only. So, this has already reached its 10th anniversary, but on January 29th in 2014, this eventually did get a release on CD through one of the best cult metal labels today, especially still going on today, that is Stormspell Records, which makes this Ovvl album a bizarre anomaly in Stormspell's catalog. So actually, before I really get into my thoughts on this album, I might as well run through the track listing and even the time length for this album, okay? I better do that. So, to go through the track listing here, since there's actually 7 tracks here, again, it clocks in at the length of 40 minutes and 4 seconds. So, these 7 tracks are beginning with Gypsy River, which is actually closest to probably being the shortest song on the album. Medicine Mirror, Glaurung, Demon Ride, the second shortest one, probably slightly longer than Gypsy River, but it's only by several seconds or so, maybe 10 seconds, maybe longer, 12 seconds longer, I don't know. To continue on, we then get into The Child and the Clown, then Snake-Eyed Goblin Woman, and then finally ending with Thunder in the Sea. And Thunder in the Sea is the longest song on the album, so there you go. There's your 7 tracks. Before I get into the music of this album, I must start with where I first discovered Ovvl. It was sometime in 2015 now. I always bring up the site Bandcamp in my reviews, and in this case, Bandcamp became this story's engine source. I was heavily getting deep into discovering a lot of proto-metal / heavy 70s bands, thanks to VC channels such as Greeno and Metal Theologian. It also had a way of inspiring me in many ways, me to try and discover newer bands. But instead of sticking with VC channels to be my way of possibly discover new bands or new acts, whatever, that play 70s style heavy rock / proto metal, I wanted to be different. 3 years prior, again 2013 to be exact, I discovered Bandcamp. due to plenty of folks on the Heavy Metal Rarities forum sharing brand new, or at least just brand new whatever, new wave or traditional heavy metal bands who are just starting out, even releasing their first demos and EPs. So knowing of such a cool site like Bandcamp, in 2015 I decided to go to Bandcamp, to go there to search and discover new bands that play 70s inspired heavy rock / proto metal. This is what led me to discover Ovvl. At this point, they had 2 albums out. Their second album, Screech, was released the year before, again, January of 2014. I gave a listen to them, and my first impressions were so great that I made it a goal that when I got my Christmas money, I would purchase the CDs directly from their Bandcamp page, which I did. This leads to a very funny story. Finally, it's time to get to the story that I kind of alluded to earlier when I brought up Clint Beagle and maybe the rest of the band members of Ovvl. Actually, I don't know if I ever mentioned any of the rest of the band members yet. But I digress. I need to really get into this story. After I had purchased both albums, it took them weeks to get my order out. And I mean weeks. So for a couple of weeks, I was getting a bit nervous. I wasn't getting pissed, but I was feeling sort of bummed. So what I did was I contacted the band via their email address, which again, they always leave out their email address, whether it be on the Metal Archives or on their Bandcamp page, Again, obviously one of the members would eventually get back to me, and again, they were very nice, and I believe it could have been Clint, but it could have been either Alex or one of them, but I'm for sure it had to have been Clint that I got back to, because again, he had just started up Lamox Records at this point, so I believe it was him that had contacted me, so that's why I really kind of gave my nod and everything to Clint there. Again, I know I still have, I think, the email still in my Yahoo account, because I wasn't yet using my NastyMetalProductions Gmail account yet for a lot of my purchases, whatever, but I was using my Yahoo account. But to get back to this story, just to kind of go further with it. So again, he told me that, again, sorry for the delay. I can't remember the exact conversation word for word, but you get the gist. After another week of contacting him, because one of the members whose name I can't remember, but it was another member of Ovvl, forgot to pack my order up after I had first contacted him. They eventually shipped out my order. Not only did I get the 2 albums, as an apology, they gave me not just 1 sticker, but dozens of stickers. So if anyone ever wanted a Ovvl sticker, I have a bunch of them without having to pay for a single one of them. All out of accidentally delaying my order. Shit. Yeah, it was crazy. And again, I know I left my folder with all of my memorabilia stuff, but in that folder, I've got all the Ovvl stickers and whatever they sent me. And again, he could have just sent me 1 or 2, but I guess out of them feeling sorry, the fact that I guess they thought I was waiting impatiently, whatever, for the package. They was like, well, just to make it up to you, we're going to send you a bunch of this stuff besides the 2 albums that you purchased. So it's just one of those stories memories that have stuck with me for years, and I'm still going to remember that story, especially whenever, let's say, some person down the road and the next 10 years or 15 years will probably go, hey, found this band called Ovvl. Have you ever heard of them? Let's say it could be a family member. It could be someone that I end up becoming new friends with. And I'll maybe at a concert show. You never know. And I'll probably tell them the story about what happened with me purchasing their first 2 albums off their Bandcamp page and how long it took for them to actually ship out my order, and all the delays and delays and delays, and then finally when they actually did it, out of them feeling sorry, giving me a whole bunch of their fucking stickers. So it's like, yeah, that's something I'm always gonna remember. And you know what? It's a generous thing to do, and you know what? I really can't complain. I think it was a really cool thing of them to begin with, and that's where I've just gained a whole lot of respect for the guys of Ovvl. It's a set that kind of shows a generosity. If you purchase anything from them, or anything gets getting delayed, they'll obviously pay you back in some way or shape or form, and they'll do something big for you. And that's not the first time that has ever happened to me. Again, I'll have to save another story for another time whenever I talk about, let's say, the first Witchblade album, A Skull and Nacelled, from Swords and Chains Records. They're off, again, the guys' label, whatever, Store Envy Store. Again, it's a similar situation that happened, but that's even another story, so I'm just going to move on. So when I did finally receive the CDs, oh my god, I played those first two Ovvl albums for weeks. But for now, I am only focusing on the debut here. But from here, Ovvl became one of my favorite new discoveries. What a unique fucking band. Imagine a wild hybrid of the Detroit rock scene from the late 60s to early 70s, as in bands like the Stooges, the original Alice Cooper Band, the Amboy Dukes, and MC5, with other bands like Early, Pentagram, Bang, Sir Lord Baltimore, and, of course, the aforementioned Black Sabbath. And even at times some new wave of British heavy metal like Iron Maiden, first two albums that really come to mind. I mostly get some of that on their second album, Screech, but again, I'll save my thoughts for the album Screech. But the way Ovvl strings their influences together is something else. It's got that metallic edge, but its attack, mostly the delivery, is in that garage rock attitude or those Detroit bands, but it's drenched in that almost psychedelic and almost at times proggy aroma that the original Alice Cooper Band, probably the first two or first three albums, and maybe to an extent Killer and the Amboy Dukes, again, it's Ted Nugent's old band, had going on for him. It's the most unique thing at the time I could even remember that blew me away. For me, I didn't even really know a band could find such a way to blend those metal genre styles, whatever, with that garagey psychedelia of the Detroit scene. This album had it all, and it's got it all. Gypsy River, Medicine Mirror, Demon Riot, and Snake-Eyed Goblin Woman are good examples of the straight-ahead rockers on this album. Again, it's garagey in their delivery, but they have that heavy metallic edge that some of the new wave of British heavy metal bands had. But the songs that best represent that proggy, psychedelic side are with the epic long numbers like Glaurung and Thunder in the Sea. Glaurung has plenty of those riff and pace changes that you kind of get with the progressive genre, to begin with any like the early progressive rock bands or any of the very American garagey proggy bands, whatever. But it's again drenched in that psych sound. Again, in the middle, it has a cool drum solo where it's given effects to make it quite spacey. And I once listened to this album, laying on my bed at night with the lights off. It enhanced the experience so much when it came to that part in Glaurung, which again, to kind of mention the drummer's name, it is Clint Beagle. Clint Beagle's a drummer. I don't know why I was mentioning him in this video here, but I wasn't mentioning the fact that he was the drummer, and I guess you can say I got spaced out. Oh boy, shit. But Clint Beagle, oh my god, what he just does with this, it's just mesmerizing. Again, it's simple, but the effects that are given to this portion in the song, it's really, when you're listening to this particular portion of the song with the lights off late at night, that's why I say it enhances the experience and it puts you in a different dimension. And I don't need to even be stoned or so, or even whatever, to really appreciate that part and just immense in my imagination and so on. And it's just fucking unbelievable. So it's just an awesome track. It's a trip. Same goes for Thunder in the Sea. It begins with the sounds of the ocean waves, like if you were picturing yourself on a ship that is in the middle of the night, being hit by the raging winds and waves of the sea. And again, if you're listening to this at night, what an experience. This whole album was an experience, and to this day, it's one of my favorite fucking albums of the 2010s. I love this album. The follow-up, Screech, again, I am going to save my thoughts for when I get to do an episode on Screech. But for now, let's end the focus on their debut. And I know I want to go on longer. And talk more about this freaking album, go in more depth. But, you know, I gotta keep time constraints, because I don't know how many people want to listen to another longer video of mine. You know, I'll save the long, prolonged or self-indulgent videos for whenever I do my podcast episode. So I'm just gonna kind of stop it right here. So there you go. It's such a great album that has already reached its 10th anniversary. I can't get over the fact that it's been 10 years already since since this album, and 7-8 years since I have listened to the album in general, or 7 years maybe. It's just fucking amazing. It's just crazy. So for those like me who has spent years listening to this album, if you're even familiar with Ovvl to begin with, again, whether your thoughts are either positive or negative, you can leave your comments in the comments section below. But if you have never gave Ovvl a listen, which I'm wondering if you ever did to begin with, and maybe you clicked on this video knowing that if you're not, you know, very unfamiliar with Ovvl, if you like that 70s heavy rock sound that mixes that psych sound, then you will dig this one. So with that, I hope all of you enjoyed. This is Heavy Thrasher saying I am out, and I'll see you all later. Take care, everyone.